All right, junior high, we're going to go ahead and go over the second portion of your history assignment for this week. That would be chapter 25. Hopefully, at this point, you have done all of your reading. You've probably even filled out part of your packets. I'm sure some of you have already completed your packets. So now would be the time to get them back out, and we're going to go through the questions together, and then I'm going to go over the answers with you to make sure that you got them all correct and that you're not confused on any areas, because I know that some of these questions are a little confusing. So we'll do it just the way that we did it in class, and we'll go through them together, okay? So I'm just going to kind of walk through the packet with you. That way you can understand the questions. The first thing would have been to write a 1-paragraph character sketch of Gandhi, and then bonus was to illustrate. So you all know what that looks like. I want you to read that section on Gandhi out of chapter 25. We looked at it in the last video, and then I want you to draw a picture of him, okay? And then I'll be able to go over that for you. But this one is really simple. You've done a lot of these sketches. You just got to draw kind of a little bit of an explanation about who he was and what he did, okay? For vocab, I wanted you to have 2 vocabulary words. Unless I say otherwise, every single packet you do for the rest of this year is going to have 2 vocab words, okay? So you'll need to look both of those up and then make sure that you write your definitions right here. To help me, especially because you guys are just sending me pictures now, put the vocab words right here on this line and then put the definitions on these lines, if you would. That way I can see the difference. Sometimes you just put it all in one line, whether the top one or the bottom one. That's a little confusing. But now that you are texting it to me, it's a little bit harder to see and read your work. So if you would just do that for me, okay? Moving on to the next questions. In the last quarter of a century of British rule in India, who were the 2 religious factions causing the most issues? So what groups or religions were causing the most issues in India while the British were ruling? We'll go over that. What caused the weakening of the European colonial powers in Africa? We'll go over that in a second. And then the pan-nationalist movement. Just find that section in your book out of chapter 25, and whatever paragraph or sentence or 2, you can just copy that down to explain what this movement was. But again, we'll go over that in just a second. You all have done this before as well. Draw the comic strip story of the POW missionary Fern Harrington Miles that is featured in the church history section of this chapter. Make sure that you have read over the church history section of that chapter and that you're able to do your comic strip. It doesn't have to be extravagant, but you need to have enough information in there that I know that you read and understood who that was, okay? You can look at the map on page 314 of your student book to answer these questions. And again, I'm sure this is all stuff that you've already gone through. You don't have to do this timeline project, this index card timeline project. I think I mentioned that to you before, but we're not going to worry about that. I just want you to fill out the actual timeline itself, okay? And I'll give you the right answers for that in a second. Describing the effects of Lord Mountbatten's decision to take Pakistan from India, and then give a short overview of the influence of Gandhi on India's history, okay? And then that would be the dig deeper. So I don't think you probably have very many questions on that. Again, that is just kind of a brief explanation. Hopefully if there is 1 or 2 questions in there that you're like, I don't understand this one, that helped. And so I want you to go ahead and pause the video now, and I want you to finish filling out your packet, and then I'll go over the answers with you here in just a second. So go ahead and pause the video, and you can unpause it once your packet has been filled out. All right, I'm hoping now that you are hitting play because you've finished your packet. If not, shame on you. Go back and do it. And then I'm going to go over the answers with you here. So give me just a second to pull this up, and we can go through the packet together, okay? Just 1 second. You'll get a behind-the-scenes look now. Normally, you see me up there behind the desk trying to find this. Now you understand how confusing this is for me, okay? It goes from page 22 to page 230. How does that make sense? All right, so we're going to start from the beginning. Let me turn my packet back around. I got an actual packet here for you. So, page 228. Your first question would have been, I don't know if I can actually, oh, there it is. All right. The character sketch of Gandhi. There's not really a right or wrong answer for this. These are just some of your observations. It says the student's character sketch should include that Gandhi was an advocate of peaceful resistance. Again, you should have gotten that out of the reading. So there's not really a right or wrong answer for this. I just want you to write down your observations about Gandhi and then your illustration there, your picture. Your vocab words, I will see whether or not you did those when you turn in your packet. Please make sure you have 2. I would hate for someone to text me a picture of their packet and only have 1 in there, just because that would be a bummer for you. So, get them both done. Page 229. All right. In the last quarter of a century of British rule of India, who were the 2 religious factions causing the most issues? That would have been Hindu and Muslim. All right. Those 2 religions would have been very prevalent. They would have been right there during that rule, and they were in disagreement with each other, so there was a lot of fighting between Hindu and Muslim factions. That would be the correct answer there. As far as question 2, what caused the weakening of the European colonial powers in Africa? That would be World War II that had weakened and stretched the once powerful empires. Okay, so World War II, and then a little bit more of an explanation there as well. And then the pan-nationalist movement. Again, just go to page 309 of your student book. If you go to page 309, then you can see a little bit of an explanation. I'll go ahead and pull it up so I can read it to you. But page 309 would be your connect, talking about the pan-nationalist movement. I'm talking about people from Africa, Asia, and Arabia, how they were displaced. And then talking even a little bit about our modern culture, Asian America, African American, or Hispanic American. We talked about that in the last video, so if you need to go back, that's fine. Or you can just turn to page 309 of your student book, and you can reread that section there, okay? All right, moving on. The next page, page 230, would be your comic strip. There's not really a right or wrong answer for that either. I just want you to make sure you include good information about Fern, and then so long as you get that filled out, you'll be fine. Just make sure that you actually get that done, okay? And then page 231. What is the first thing you notice about the map on page 314? Your exact answers will probably vary a little bit, but you should be able to point to specific details, such as the sheer amount of the world that has been a colony at some point, or the vast span of time between some places receiving their independence and others. Some places became independent way before others, and most places in the world have been a colony at one point or another. The map should be able to show you that difference. And then for the connect, look at the map's color code and locate which color indicates independence from 1950 and later. Which regions tended to gain their independence from colonial time periods from this time. So look for the orange and reddish orange and purple colors on the map. The light orange does not count because it is for the decades immediately before 1950. But those other colors are all those places that changed after 1950, okay? A large number of them were African countries that gained their independence. There was also some in Asia, Europe, and even the Americas, okay? And so your map will be able to show you, look for those orange, reddish orange, and purple colors. All right, page 232. Again, you don't have to do that. That's the timeline index card. We're just going to jump down to the actual timeline. So page 233. These would be the correct order for your timeline. 1945 through 1960 is E. That's when dozens of new states in Africa and Asia gained independence. You have D for 1947. That would be when India gains independence. C would have been January 30th. That's when Gandhi was assassinated. And then you have B. And then you have A, which is the U.S. troops leave Vietnam. So basically, they're in reverse order this time. Okay? E, D, C, B, A. So nice and easy. The effects of Lord Mountbatten's decision to take Pakistan from India. This little paragraph kind of sums it up. He resolved to divide the country between the two fighting fractions, giving Pakistan to the Muslims and India to the Hindus. The partition of the country was not a popular move to many people because not all Muslims lived in Pakistan and not all Hindus lived in India. So the partition forced entire families to be uprooted and moved to a location that they did not consider to be their home, as Pakistan Hindus moved to India and Indian Muslims moved to Pakistan. There was a lot of bloodshed and violence that was triggered by mass migrations following the partition or the separation. During the struggle, nearly 1 million people are believed to have lost their lives. So he made the decision to basically separate everyone. And it caused a lot of bloodshed. It caused a lot of death. And then your short overview of the influence of Gandhi on India's history. Again, page 308 kind of goes over those decisions. But if you go back to your character sketch, a lot of that information that you wrote down, you can just put here. And it'll just kind of help sum it up a little bit more. So once you get all of this filled out, the best way to send it to me is to take pictures with your phone or your iPad. And then you can either text them to me. You should have my number, or you can email them to me. Either one works. I just need to see photo evidence that you completed all of your work, okay? So if for some reason you can't get the picture to take or the picture to send, let me know, and maybe you could just show them to me on FaceTime or something like that. But bottom line is make sure that you get this stuff filled out, and then talk to me if you're having any issues, and we'll get it taken care of, all right? So hopefully you got everything good. And then we will go over chapter 26 next